Hello and welcome everybody coming at you live in New York. This is Spirit Matters, your daily Bhakti Center Gita podcast. I'm Dayal Gurunga and this is Achyuta Gopi and we're here together. Our good friend Kishore has been not with us the last few days, but he'll be with us again soon. We love you all so much and are glad that you are here. How you doing, Achyuta?
I am under the shelter of blessings. That's what
Under the shelter of blessings. Achyuta has been crafting very spiritually minded responses to the question, how are you? Last week, she was
surrounded by mercy.
surrounded by mercy. This week, she is under the shelter of blessings.
So I'm going with this week.
That's what she's going with this week. That just came to your mind right now?
No, actually, I was thinking about it yesterday.
Thinking about it yesterday. She's been preparing. She's preparing for all you guys out there. I'm realizing that there are people listening to this podcast. Did you know that?
Right?
I'm
Like,
realizing that, like, I'll meet somebody. I met somebody yesterday from London, and he was like, "I listen to you regularly," and I was like, "I had no idea. That's amazing."
did he
Other,
sound like
what's that?
that? Did he sound like
He didn't sound like that, but I sounded just like that.
that?
That's exactly how I sounded. So if you're out there listening, we love you. Thank you so much for being here. If you're out there listening, write to us. We should have people write to us and let us know that they're listening, right?
Like, they could do it on the Rise platform.
They can do it on the Rise platform. We have a Rise platform, which you can find out by going to our Bhakti Center online website or website in our online, like we have an in-person and online page. Or just write to me. I'm going to put my email out there, Dayal, Dayal at bhakticenter.org. Write to me and just let us know that you're listening, what you like, what you appreciate, your feedback, your questions.
Mm.
We appreciate it so much. We are reading the Bhagavad Gita, and we got
But
to.
also, how are you, Doyle?
How am I?
Yeah.
I'm under the shelter of blessings.
Hey.
Yeah,
I like
I'm under the shelter of blessings. It's a good. I was just this morning. I've been this morning I was writing. I was looking at the sixth chapter of the Gita, and a lot about the talks a lot about the nature of the mind. Um, and I was thinking about the mind being a story making machine and the stories that we create, and much of that chapter of the Gita is about reframing, remolding the way that we look at things, whether it be things or whether it be people, and not making the things themselves change, but making the way we see them change, and therefore the experience I have of them change. And so much of the Gita is about being steady in happiness or distress. The Bhagavad Gita, sixth chapter, talks about heat or cold. In the beginning of the Gita, Krishna is urging Arjuna about being equipoise in happiness and distress, honor and dishonor, fame and infamy, etc., and how much of that is a practice of the mind. When something happens, there's an immediate story that I create about what it means. Life's so unfair. Why is this happening? Or this person must hate me, or this person must like me, or blah 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 blah. And so this idea of being under the shelter of blessings, so much is a practice of the mind in catching ourselves in how I respond to things and the story I ascribe of, you know, what's happening. I missed the train. This always happens to me, This just always happens to me, you know. And so nothing ever works out for me. And it's like, well, maybe you just left 30 seconds late, or whatever it might have been. And so I just thinking about the difference between living in a mindset, and there is, not to get into like the vibration theory, et cetera, about like we attract what we think about, but just the idea of then we start to live in that mindset, and we start to look for ways to reinforce that way of thinking.
Well, funny enough that vibration theory and this mindset and this actual like law of attraction, people can think like it's such like a new agey neo spiritualist type theme, except for Krishna goes into that exactly in Bhagavad Gita. It's like what you
Except the fact that
focus
it's been around forever.
yeah, he literally tells Arjuna, he's like, what you focus on will be your destination after death and for your next life. Literally, what you focus on will become your next destination.
Where attention goes, energy flows. That's a verse from the Gita, isn't it? Somewhere?
Should
Which one?
be.
It should be
It was
somewhere.
like the modern colloquial Gita.
Modern colloquial Gita. Where attention goes, energy flows. Um, totally. And so, I don't know if I cut you off right there. I was just,
No, no, no.
I think I did.
You totally didn't.
I didn't. Okay. So, anyways, all of that under the shelter of mercy was related to the sixth chapter of the Gita and the way the mind works.
Hmm.
We're in the first chapter of the Gita, though. We are getting through verses. We left off in text 9,
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, one of titled by Srila Prabhupada, "Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra," sometimes also referred as setting the scene, putting ourselves in Arjuna's shoes. If you're listening for the first time, the Bhagavad Gita is this ancient spiritual wisdom text, and where there's this conversation between Krishna and Arjuna is faced with this ultra existential crisis about right versus wrong, duty and responsibility, um, identity, what's the right thing to do in a very extreme circumstance. And through that conversation, we learn life and wisdom principles about the nature of the soul that we hopefully will be able to take and guide us throughout all of our life circumstances. And this part of the Gita is sort of setting the scene of the characters that are surrounding him. It's going to hone in and focus on just Krishna and Arjuna, but we've kind of got this broad view right now. We've been listing these um, sides of the army. He's on a battlefield about to take place in this great battle. And in text 9, the other side of the battle, which kind of um, exemplifies unrighteousness and immorality, etc. And the leader of this army, he's saying to his generals, there are many heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and all are experienced in military science. And we discussed about who we're devoted to, and that, who we decide we want to be like, or who we decide we want to let influence our choices, or who we decide is our area of influence, very much dictates the direction of our life. And that in this case, people who allowed themselves to be devoted to this ill-minded leader, Duryodhan, his name literally means dirty fighter. Um, and so um, we talked a lot about that in the next week. And then we move on to verse 10. Anything you want to say on that, or should we just move on to chapter 10? Did I do an okay recapping? Was that good?
You did a perfect recapping of
Okay, great.
it was like it was a lot that I was like, how's he gonna do? But it was really, really
Richard
well.
is like, oh no, don't go that far. Keep it brief, Dial.
No, no, no. Actually, I'm yeah. I am not the one who has like the keep it brief moments. I feel like Doyle, you are the one that gives yourself the challenge of always keeping it brief. So I was like, how's he gonna have otherwise this is gonna be like a day of cognitive dissonance for Doyle. Like how did I not
Is
keep
he
it brief?
recapping again?
No.
Dial, we can't recap every day.
No, but it was so good. Really well done. What's crazy is yeah, I don't know. It's so interesting that the we're talking about this kind of like list of names and identities, and I think it'd be really good to like kick off with what identity are we choosing that day, like which hat are we putting on. So
Hmm.
many people put on so many different hats, and they want you to fight for so many different causes, and people will ascribe those identities to you, and then it still remains within our power. It still remains up to us which one of those we choose, even that particular day. I was reading a quote from Ram Dass the other day that I came across on social media, and he was just kind of talking about that idea that there are so many different, like, once people know that you have this part of your identity, they start thinking, okay, well, that's it, like we can now rope you in, you're supposed to fight for this cause. It's It's as if, like, once people find out, they're like, oh, you're a woman, well then automatically you're going to fight for all the women's rights and all of these things, and all of these things that you're going to go, you're going to align yourself. And we're going to see Duryodhana in a second is going to be like, give all your support. Everybody wants you to give support to this thing or that thing that they have aligned you with, but it still remains within your power every day to make that choice. What is it that I align with? And maybe some days you don't align with whatever cause people have ascribed to you. And that has to be okay. It still has to be your choice for your own peace of mind, for your own mental health, for your own growth. It has to be your choice. And so, what you identified with yesterday does not have to be what you identify with today, nor do those causes have to be what you align yourself with today. Today,
Mm.
you can choose to not align with anything, actually. You can choose to have a day where you just rest from all the causes, because there will always be a cause, there will always be a fight to partake in.
Mm. I want to, rather than me elaborating, I want to just kind of dig in further to understand what you're saying. That there's this battle is taking place, and Duryodhan, who's the leader of one side, is trying to drum up support, and so he's
Yeah.
appealing to all of these warriors, calling them out by name. And we discussed in previous discussions about the complex and layered identities of so many people, and that everybody has a backstory, and that everybody has a history to them, and et cetera. Um, and he's appealing to certain parts of their identity and trying to pull that out into the cause. And that there will be people in our life. It's interesting. The question of wanting something from people or for people. Do I want something for you or from you?
Yeah.
And there are people who want something from you, and they're going to find a piece of your identity that appeals to their cause, and sort of like exploit that particular identity. And we have a choice of recognizing what's taking place and saying, yes, there is a piece of my identity, but it doesn't mean that I have to therefore X, Y, and Z take a particular action, or be drawn into something that doesn't feel comfortable for me. And I imagine, your main causes, you're discussing, whether it's social causes or political causes or whatever. We're not getting into specifics, but I guess for you, what is the way that maybe, like, do you see that happening in the world around you with people that you feel need to know that because they're in a particular danger of being taken advantage of or being confused? Or is there something in your life that you see happening where that's taking place that you're having to remind yourself of? Like,
It
where do you
happens
see
all,
where do you see this showing up?
it happens all the time. It happens to me every single day. I find that I get pulled into certain situations or circumstances by people I didn't even know.
Is that how you got to this podcast? Did I do that?
No.
Is that why you're here?
Can you
I'm so,
imagine?
I'm sorry.
I've
This is
been here
Machuta's resignation.
for 8 months.
She's like, I've been waiting for the right verse to bring this up,
No,
but
but I've gotten pulled into so many of those situations. People have told me, and usually it comes up quite unexpectedly. I've had people who have told me, you know, spiritual organizations have such a dark past. How could you, being a youth who's grown up in a spiritual organization, align yourself with a spiritual organization that could possibly have had a dark past? Like, how could you? Like, you're a youth just like me who's grown up in this thing. And I cannot believe that you have not aligned with us and have tried to burn the whole thing down. And I've had to turn around and say, hold on a second. When did I ever say I was trying to burn it down? Like, I didn't say that. Other people said that. But just because I haven't even talked about my hardships, you've taken the idea that they don't exist, or that I am acting as though they don't exist. Everybody can fight their battle with life and with all the things that are going on in their lives in their own way. They actually have that ability and that right to fight that battle however they see fit. And just because if you're trying to make change, that might not be the only way to make change. And so that was actually a conversation that I had to have with somebody. I was like, you've grown up with me. How did you come into this situation casting accusations without even asking me how I felt about it? Like how is it that you just decided my fight should look this way, this way, this way, and any other way is completely wrong? I've had people who have said, I thought you were a good Hindu, but because of something that happened over there, now I'm quite you're a completely fake person. That was a message I literally got this morning. And I was like, it's actually something that had nothing to do with me. I sang a bhajan. Other people used that bhajan and made a different video of it. And then somebody on YouTube decided to put a copyright strike on it, which means they had the video taken down. And somehow they used my name. I don't know who this person is. They have a different email. It's not me. But
If you're
YouTube,
out there, we will find you.
I honestly have no desire. I'm like, I'm too tired to find this person. I don't care. But what happened was, I don't know why YouTube abides by the things that they abide by, but they abided by it and they took the video down. And when they take the video down, it says video taken down due to copyright imposed by, and then it's my name. Incidentally, the one time other people spelled it right. See, whenever people want to write me and they want to like make a connection, they always spell it wrong. But this time they spelled it correctly. So every day I get upwards of 15 hate mails with threats, with all kinds of things. How could you, being Hindu, do this to this video? We needed this video. And I'm like, why am I'm not even in this fight. I was minding my business. I've
Mm,
actually done nothing. And so this garnering of support, people get so intense when they want to garner support that they turn into the very thing that they're fighting against often. And they do
mm,
it with people who are innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire.
mm,
And so I feel like it's so important for us to know when we are simply being caught in the crossfire and then sometimes move out of the way. We can duck. We don't always have to engage. We don't always have to make a big stance. We don't even always have to defend ourselves. Sometimes we move out of the crossfire, duck, dodge, move, do something different. But it's every day. I come across things that wind up making me really think and look and say, okay, now what am I fighting for? Because people are saying, like, I'm even if I say, and I had said in the past, because this has been going on for about a month now, every day diligently. I had said in the past, I was like, look, this wasn't me. And then the people come back with, well, and why didn't you put up more support? And I'm like, what? Hold up a second. Let's go back to the original part where they stole this content from me, made something else, and are making lots of money off of it because there's millions and millions of views. I have made nothing off of this. And you're saying that I should have done better when
mm,
somebody stole my identity to do something terrible. And they're like, well, you should have put in more support. And I'm like, how is it always so? No matter what you do, when people are trying to garner support, sometimes it will always be your fault.
mm,
And in this text, where text 11, Duryodhana is saying, all of you must now give full support to grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. He's kind of looking at all of these warriors like, look, I know that other side is going to look righteous and they're going to look like they're doing the right thing. You have to stand your ground. And he's fully prepared to make sure it will be their fault. And he's telling them, like, be ready to the point of death and beyond. Give your full support. Don't waver. Don't, because just before this battle, interestingly enough, they have kind of a conference and they ask if anybody at the last moment wants to switch sides. Some people do. But they ask that question. And so Duryodhan has this back knowledge of like, look, if they ask you again if you want to switch sides, you better be prepared to say no. You better be ready to give your full support. Like this is your identity now. You have aligned yourself here. This is all there is. And we should be really careful of looking at ourselves, identifying with one thing or the other, and letting that be all there is, even if it is a spiritual identity that can morph and change. Allow our identities to change shape.
Hmm. I there's a lot there, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the tying back to the Gita in terms of, just to read these verses again for the continuity. The verse we read last Friday was text 9. There are many heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and are all experienced in military science. It's a battlefield as a setting. Text 10. Our strength is immeasurable. We are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, the other side, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. And then the text you just read, 11. All of you, meaning his own soldiers, must now give full support to grandfather Bhishma, who's like the big um, general on their side, as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. And so you've been speaking about garnering support and the negative impacts it can have on people, and being careful about people who are trying to exploit things about you to garner support from them, or people who are trying to take you down in a certain way. And Duryodhan kind of exemplifying that ill ill um
Intent.
ill-intentioned garnering of support, and to recognize it, and for us to not fall victim of that,
Yeah.
to not fall victim. Um and it's tricky a lot of times, even in spiritual circles, because we're so it's impressed upon us so much to give and to surrender and to sacrifice, etc.
Yeah, it goes into even being like belonging, everybody's like searching for this area of belonging, and
E-
now,
Totally, even outside of spiritual circles, like I just want to belong somewhere. And so therefore I'm going to go beyond what feels right for me, just so that I feel like I have a place at the table. And where that road ends is never any place wholesome. You never get what you wanted at the end of the day anyways, and it usually ends up in resentment, or it ends up in dissatisfaction, or ends up in feeling taken advantage of, without the recognition that, well, like, yes, I was taken advantage of, and I also said yes. I also agreed.
wow.
I also turned a blind eye to certain things because I just wanted to not rock the boat, or just wanted to go along, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And I there have been like several documentaries about conversion therapists, right?
Mm,
And not just the conversion therapy, but now the other side, the people who were doing the conversion therapy, and them having to take a hard look at their lives and think, I played into something that really did a disservice, harmed a lot of people. And their sense of yearning to belong took over, and, like you said, made them kind of distance themselves from their own
mm,
knowing
yeah,
of what was right, their own being able to even see the harm that was being caused to the other side. Now, in contrast, in a few verses, we will see that Arjuna, who has not distanced himself from that feeling, that knowing of, wait a second, causing harm to this other side, and really wanting to stop himself in his tracks, he is questioning what he has aligned himself with.
yeah,
And Krishna encourages it. He encourages all of us to, you can question what you've aligned yourself with. And Krishna even says, even when it comes down to spiritual topics, spiritual groups, spiritual alignments, you can question it, no problem.
hmm. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We're at our time's end, and I want to invite Kimberly to share with us some takeaways
We take it away that where our focus goes, our energy flows.
straight from Krishna's mouth.
Yep. and that we have the power to realign ourselves every day, and that our identities are allowed to take different shapes and forms.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Just want to give a shout out to the Sham Ashram in Colombia. Anna told us that we got some friends listening there. Devi Shakti, Sham Sundari, anybody else out there in Colombia, Cali, Colombia, Sham Ashram. We love you guys and we're really glad that you're with us. Beautiful, beautiful stuff happening out there. Beautiful people. Thank you. Achut, is there a word you want to say before we close?
Just that I'm feeling like don't be afraid to change, grow, morph, even if it appears at first that you might be giving up that sense of belonging. In the end, you find a greater sense of identity and a
Hmm.
huger sense of belonging, but you wind up staying much more true to yourself and super soul in the heart.
Hmm. Thank you. I am under the shelter of blessings.
Hey,
That's where I'm leading. Love you guys so much. Please be well, take care, and we look forward to seeing you again, same time, same place tomorrow. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you.